Hey, hi, I'm back. How are you, Bob? Greetings, greetings, greetings. This is Sunday, and how are you all doing? Greetings, greetings, greetings. Thank you, Ambazolina. How are you? Greetings. Thank you. How you guys doing this afternoon? It's afternoon here in the United States, here in the state of Texas. Bob, greetings. Nice having you, and greeting to all of you. Here again, thank all of you that are tuning in. Uh, Fellow brothers and sisters here in around United States and those in ground zero. We will broadcast live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States, and those in Ground Zero and those in La Republique. And we have one of our brothers from Europe, Bob. And I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are tuned in. Um, so I have a question that we will talk about it. And the question that I want to ask is, thank you so much. The question I want to ask is for those who are women that happen to be watching, when you deliver a child, do you wait when the child reach 18 years before you give the name of the child? Or you give the name of the child so that the child grew up together with the name, so that it's more familiar with the name, rather than wait when the child is already grown up before you implement the new name, and that would not be ineffective way. So today, and I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are tuned in. Thank you, for joining in. And if you just tune in, just share so that we have other cameras to come in. Remember that I also broadcast live on my Facebook and on my YouTube as well. And thank you for tuning in. Here again, my name is Fulton Daniel. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, one thing that I wanted to dwell on today, but let me first of all talk a little bit about the people of Bali. The people of Bali. It is quite painful. It is painful. You remember a few 2 or 3 days ago, I report about the genocide in South in Bali. This was an orchestrated by La République du Cameroon. La République imagined that La République used chemical weapon in Bali. They knew exactly where the Amber Restoration movement, where guys or movement were are in Bali. They knew exactly the locations. And since they knew the location, thanks for our sister Comfort for tuning in. Thanks, DC, for joining in. And uh, um, you know, La Republique knew, the commander of or the commander, not the commander, the general of the gendarmerie knew where our boys are. They spread chemicals that cause a little bit of paralysis to our boys. And these chemicals cause paralysis, which means they have some weaknesses and that they couldn't even respond. And that was the chemical that was used to spread on our boys. And that La Republique used La Republique take advantages of the chemical that was spread and went and killed all our 34 or 39 of them in number in Bali. This is the most cruel, of La Republique. This is the most cruel action that ever taken or constantly taken by La Republique. And remember that when this incident happened, I report on my YouTube video. I hope some of you have watched the YouTube video, which I report that the chemical was spread. The chemical was spread at 12 midnight and gave ample of 3 hours so they can penetrate and execute them. Of course, if you look at the area that they portray them, there is no blood, and then you can know that they inherit a chemical weapon that was sprayed on them. And this was because La Republic sprayed the chemical, and that you can see that they die without physical force. And you cannot even you cannot find that at least 30 to 39 number of people die in session without any piece of blood to indicate they were shot. That indicates that they used chemical to destroy in Bali. This is the most cruel action by La Republic, and that is why I am bringing attention to the United States government, to the U.S. Department of Defense, to the U.S. Congress, and the United States government in general, the White House, about this ongoing utilization of chemicals by the neighboring country in La Republic of Cameroon. You remember all that I have been speaking very critically about La Republic, and especially the United Nations in action. The United Nations is led by a dumb. That is the most cruel office that I have ever found here in the United States that lack responsibility. So remember, United Nations hasn't even declared, acknowledge that there's something going on. Remember that United Nations has its officials that are in La Republique du Cameroon. They haven't made a statement. Remember that when the refugee crisis erupted, Nigeria was the first United Nations representative to report about the crisis, because La Republique, even though the United Nations representative in La Republique hasn't made a statement about the crisis that is currently going on. And you all are aware, because I spoke about this problem before. There is this ongoing La Republique United Nations representative that is currently in La Republique cannot report because they earn two salaries. The salary that is paid by La Republique du Cameroon and the salary that is paid by the United Nations. And that is why the ongoing crisis, no report has been made by the United Nations, or if they made a report, it is not inadequate enough to substantiate exactly what the purpose was indicated. And that is why the current genocide is currently going on. You all remember that there is ongoing killing of those of the clergy priests, adoption and slaughtering of clergymen. That is ongoing process perpetrated by La Republique du Cameroon on the Anglophone area. And it is quite painful when you see La Republique carry on genocide against the clergy that are moving around to provide food, medicine to those affected areas. Instead, La Republique is moving around adopting some of those members. You know, it is quite, that is why I am bringing this case to the United States government, to the U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. State Department, and the U.S. Congress about this ongoing atrocity that is perpetrated by La Republique du Cameroon. You all remember that even though we've been announcing about this crisis, the spokesperson for La Republique government, the colonel budget, whatever he's called, colonel budget, was instead threatening people that are speaking about the atrocity. The military, whom he claimed to be a spokesperson, is threatening people, diaspora, for speaking the truth. Colonel Budget, who is the spokesperson for the military that is carrying on the atrocity in the Southern Cameroon territory. And he is in denial of the fact that the priest is saying he is physically in that area where the incident took place, and the report from the neighboring and friendly members that saw exactly what is happening. And Budget, the military spokesperson for La Republique, is rejecting fact from people that actually witnesses the incidents. And he is coming out to declare. You all know La Republic has never stand and speak the truth. The fact is that La Republic has no control over the people of Southern Cameroon. La Republic needs to relinquish its authority and move to La Republic and keep the people of Southern Cameroon alone. So another point that I want to dwell on is one thing related to the structure of the federal government of the people of Amazon. You know, I am an architect. I am in strong support of the structure. For example, you can't wake the child when the child is delivered before you start. When the child is delivered, you don't wait when the child grew up to be 18 years before you give the child's name. So we have an IG which stands for an interim government. The essence of an interim government represents the people of Amazon. There should be a structure called the Congress, either a provisional Congress, which means because they have not been actively elected in Southern Cameroon territory. So a provision is a government that is currently outside the norms. So before I dive into that, because people kind of wonder why there's a provisional government that has never been elected by the people. Well, for those of you who know about the South Korea, remember that South Korea was under the was under the Japanese Empire. And so when they start advocating for their sovereignty, when the South Korea started advocating for their sovereignty, their original government or the provisional government was resided in Shanghai in China until when they succeed to defend and defend their territory. That is when the provisional government moves in. So a provisional government can exist in any part of the world, so long as it meets the aspiration of the people, of the sovereign people. So what am I advocating? I am advocating that there should be an interim Congress, because I am a fan of the American structure of government. I am a big fan of the American structure of government. And that is why I see an avenue that an American structure of government will be more effectively in Southern Cameroon, in the people of Southern Cameroon, to have a unanimous representative of the people of Southern Cameroon. So in an interim government, which will be made, there should be the three separation of powers, which means the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. And so people want to see how this government, in the advent of internet, this can function without any problems. The reason is we can attach the Department of Judiciary Department, the Senate Department, and the Congress. The Congress should be attached to the AMBA website. The AMBA website should be able to should have a bicameral, because everywhere representative can dial in when there is a discussion or debate about a law or regulations that need to be implemented. And so with the advent of technology, we can narrow those problems and they will be easily accessible for every citizen to be able to participate. For example, let's talk about an interim Congress. We should have an interim Congress or a provisional Congress. United States, prior to the defeat of the British, United States had a provisional Congress. So if we have a provisional Congress or an interim Congress, either or should represent the same purpose. So let's say now we have some kind of law we need to be implemented. We put that law will be tabled to the provisional Congress to start debate. So start understand how are we going to do it. It should be have some kind of opening so that people can be able to witness the debate that is going on about the provisions or laws that govern the people of Southern Cameroon. And that is an efficient way and an effective way that we start building a structure that represent the people of Southern Cameroon and the people of Ambazonian. we have a Senate. Let's say the IG or whichever government is in place. Let's say the IG. If the IG have a someone that they need to appoint, that person obviously will have to be confirmed by the Senate. The Senate, let's say they want to appoint someone like communication secretary, the director of something, whatever positions that required by law and that they require to be confirmed by the Senate, then that individual will have an open debate, you know, to explain why he feels that he is qualified for that position, or if there is any other problem he has behind him that the people can viciously analyze so that determine his qualification, whether he is capable in that position to be the leader in that particular cabinet. So let's start building the structure because in advent of technology, we are able to carry on this process. Let's say we have the judiciary department. The judiciary department will have its own normal functions. We call either the provisional judiciary department or provisional, whatever the provision, which means implies that it has not officially located in the Southern Cameroon. So once the government start implementing its policy or start function as an independent government, so we will now be able to understand the rule. We will not wait to when you deliver a child, you deliver the child, you put the child's name. Once you put the child's name, the child begin to grow. And once the child grow, reach an adulthood, the child already know his name. You can't wait the child till the child reaches 18 and you tell the child that you are interim Congress, you are interim Senate. Then they kind of wondering, say, well, I didn't know about this name. How did you come about to get this name? That is why I want us to start building our Southern Cameroon structure gradually with the form of a provisional government, and then the people begin to assimilate what structure are we expecting? How does this function? I understand many people are not familiar with American structure, and that is why I'm bringing this highlight for people to understand how American structure function in a democratic free society. So it is very, very important that we start looking at this structure as we forge ahead and building a lasting nation of the people of Southern Cameroon. We got to have a vision. And once we have those visions in line with our objectives, and we start building our nations effectively, immediately, because if we wait till the time we arrive here without being able to build this, then it will be quite difficult for us in a single day to be able to implement this policy because there will be disagreement. But once people begin to assimilate, once people begin to understand the structure of their government, once people begin to realize that they have a structure and that is how their structure functions, then people begin to assimilate. And once that assimilation began to energize into the people's system, and that is how we narrowly building our nations because we can't wait to the last minute. Let's take, for example, Southern Sudan. You all know why Southern Sudan is not effective, whereas Eritrea is effective because they have a structure of government in place. And so when Ethiopia moved out or acknowledged, Eritrea was easily transitioned, whereas in Southern Sudan, it wasn't because there was no structure in place. I know many people say, oh, we are at war. Yes, we are at war. And I have declared that we are at war. We are at war. But we have those that have been assigned that is part dealing with the war with La République du Cameroon that is currently invading our territory. But at the meantime, we need to build up our own government and that begin to so that people begin to understand how does our structure government in a democratic society. I am an advocate of the United States government structure, and that is why I am beginning to giving this lecture for people to understand what is the structure of the United States government. United States government is made up of United States government is made up of the Congress, and the Senate and the executive. No, let me rephrase again. It's made up of judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. Under the executive, you have the president that appoint the federal secretary, the federal judges, the Supreme Court judges. That is the prerogative of the president to appoint those officials. And once the one advantages of the Supreme Court that many people are not aware is that once a person is appointed to the Supreme Court is the highest court of the land. And I will advocate for the Supreme Court in the Southern Cameroon territory. And those appointed to the Supreme Court are appointed for life. In other words, they are not going to be said they are from this, belong to this party, or they will support this party, or they support this party. The reason because the Supreme Court deals not the, interpret the laws of the land. They interpret the law of the land, and no one above the law. The president is not above the law. The president is held below the law. And the law spellbound what each and individual government within the United States structure must respect. So, and with this, then you have the legislature. The legislature, the legislature in the United States is made up of the Congress and the Senate. The Congress, which is made up of 400 and something members that is elected within each of the states, within the geographical bound, and we have the Senate. The Senate is made up of 2 members elected from each state within the continental state of the United States. So those are effective members. Once those members have been elected, so once the president appoints, they have to be confirmed by the Senate. You see, this is the structure, the best structure, and that is why I see that we need to start building this system within the Southern Cameroon territory. It is an advantage because while we can't wait till the time we are get to Boya, and we believe that we're going to implement that structure. We're going to have a disagreement. We're going to have grievances, and it is normal for have those days. But if we start now and building those structure and starting ruling on those structure and giving the gap of our policy, and if there is an issue, we refer to each of the arms of the government. Then now we start assimilating those systems. The reason, the differences between this current system is that they have not been officially elected by the people of Ground Zero, given the circumstances we are facing trying to eradicate land from the sovereignty of the people of Southern Cameroon. So in the meantime, we have a structure outside the norms, and that structure will continue to demonstrate the rule of a democratic system of government till we officially eradicate land from the Southern Cameroon territory, that we can now, in my initial terms or my own decision, I would request that either within 6 months or 1 year or within effectively, once the La Republique vacate the territory, once La Republique vacate the territory, we can immediately elect the officials. And because that is what I call interim. Interim in the sense that once we get to ground zero, the ground zero will elect officials or whatever arm of the government. And once it's elected, the current government in outside will terminate its functions. That is the effective way that we can be able to govern in a democratic free society. And that is why the Constitution should be spellbound and made known to the people to understand these fundamental principles. Because many people say, oh, we are at war. Yes, I have advocated we are at war. And I have spoken about it that we are at war. But at the same time, we have to build our own structure as a form of our own government. As we build this structure, we begin to energize this structure as we move forward. You know? So it is imperative that we have to build, because we can't give a different name with the hope that once we get to Buya, we're going to form another different name. No, let's call a spade a spade. And we believe that it is a spade. Even when we arrive Buya, we know it is a spade. And that is why the people already know what it is and they begin to assimilate. And that is the most imperative, that we start building this structure. You know, we have the interim government or the provisional Congress. Either interim Congress, because we have interim government, then we should have an interim Congress. The reason for interim is that it's not physically at ground zero. So it is somewhere outside, and the function can be half of the people. We have interim Senate. We have interim judiciary department. And each should have their own function. With the advent of technology, that shouldn't be a problem. And so those officials that have law background, they can debate about the laws, regulations that govern the people of Southern Cameroon. And that when the issues arises, they can be implemented gradually. If there is a question that is within the interim government, then they can refer it to the judiciary, because I mean, ordinary citizens can file a motion to that judiciary and request a hearing. And that hearing can be executed through, we have advent of technology, so we can use through Zoom the debate, and one can still argue that there will be a case hearing, and that can be Zoom and debate about the case. So it is imperative that we start implement this policy within the advent of technology, and that is where we can move forward. You know, and I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are tuning in. That this is the way moving forward, and this is how we continue building the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. I will continue talking about different structure. You know, I would, because it is imperative people understand what structure are we expecting, what do we have, and I will also talk about a as I know I talked about the Senate, about the local government, and I talk about the state, the county, and the city. So there is a difference, because I am support the American structure, and that is why I believe that if we have the American structure, we have a very lasting peace and solutions to our problem. That it will take long, it takes time for people, for individuals to complain, because allow the government to the people, let the people have their government, and let them decide what they want for their government. And that is why giving government back to the local community, let them be able to analyze and decide what they want. Let's say we talk about the city. On the city part of the city, in other words, we have the federal government, we have the federal government, we have the state government, and the state government, and we have the county government. So the county government will be led by, will control the city. Let's say we have the state government. The state, the state government, we have other, we have county. The county is under the state government. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if for you we are not familiar with this American system. So the state, because you have the federal secretary, which means the federal, let's say a president appoint the federal secretary. The federal secretary will oversee the various states that make up the Union of the Southern Cameroon federal government. And you have the state. The state will have their own local government. The state will elect their own governor. The governor will be head of the state. So the governor will oversee each state. Let's say, for example, we have just a single two state. Let's say Northwest and Southwest have are two states within the Federal Republic of Ambazonian. Then we will have the governor of each state. But if we choose to convert to the 13 division, let the 13 original division we have in the Federal Republic of Amazonia, we can convert those 13 divisions into 13 states. And so if we choose to convert those 13 divisions into 13 states, then we will have 13 governors that will be elected by the people, who will not appointed. like in our republic, because we function under the federal structure of government. So the governor or will be elected to head at, let's say, the 13th village. Let's give typical example. Let's say Fako is a Fako division. We upgrade to a full state. Then Fako will elect a governor. The governor of Fako state will then you have a Fako county. The Fako county is a city. The Fako county is a local government. And the city in Fako will have a mayor. The mayor is elected by the people. So the mayor will have a councillors. So the councillors are elected by within the jurisdiction of Fako County. So the people elected to that Fako County or the councillors, the councillor will be elected depending on the number of criteria spelled out by the law governing the Southern Cameroon territory. If the law allows that the Fako shall have 15 council members and a mayor, so the 15 council members and the mayor shall be voted by the people. And once voted, they shall assume their duty. And once they assume their duty, the mayor shall advertise the post of a commissioner. Because commissioner is not just any person, it's an intelligence security analyst that shall implement the law governing the police department. And so those who have studied the police force shall be able to the job shall be prescribed, and every qualified candidate shall apply. The mayor will select several candidates. Once the mayor selects several candidates amongst those who apply, and those selected shall be presented to the councillor. The city councillor shall debate and on their qualification, and they will select whichever they vote to be the city police commissioner. Once the city choose the police commissioner, then they will give an informal letter of acceptance that they acknowledge, and then he will be appointed by the city mayor. And the city mayor will, then the police official will take over his duty. There is another office too that will also do the same, like the city manager. The city manager is responsible for the day-to-day functions of the city. So the mayor will select several candidates that apply for the post of a city mayor or city manager. Because the city mayor is elected by the people, the city council is elected by the people, but the city commissioner of police shall be selected by a broad-based candidate. The city manager shall be selected by a broad-based candidate. And those broad-based candidates shall present their credentials. And once selected, then the city will vote to confirm that mayor, that commissioner of police, or whatever city manager. I'm sorry. So they will confirm, and once confirmed, they will take effectively. Well, the city councillor cannot be fired by the mayor because they are elected by the city. Only the people can vote against the particular city council. That is the reason. Is because of abuse of power. So the city mayor might fire a city councillor because he hates the person, or because he's posing questions, or so the city mayor, even though he is elected, cannot discipline fire a city. There should be a code of conduct that bind by the city council, that everyone will abide by those city code of conduct. So let's say there is a conduct violation within the conduct. They can file to the judiciary department, to the court. Then the court will examine whether that city councillor violates a certain law governing the Southern Cameroon territory. I hope that makes sense. So at the end of term of office, so let's say the city will elect for a 4 years term and renewable once. Why the renewable ones is that will allow that Because once someone continues to remain in the same position, fraudulence begins and they start causing this. So if you are elected for the period of 4 years, it's renewable once. And if you are not able to win, you can still run for other offices, you know. So you cannot allow individuals to stay. The new city mayor will renew once, you know, and that should be spelled out within the constitution, that within the law governing the city, you know. Then one asked about, what about the governor? Well, the governor is for the city, is for the governor, or is for the state. So the governor has a federal, have a city, a state police. The state police will also follow the same criteria. But the governor will appoint a secretary of state, no, a secretary of the state, the government. There is a difference between the federal secretary and the state secretary. So the state only have jurisdiction within that particular state, whereas the federal state will have jurisdiction over the federal state of Ambazonian. So there would be limited power. Let's say police in a state of, let's say, Fako state. So the police in the state of Fako cannot arrest somebody in a different state. He must consult with that state to get an authority, and that state will then abide whether if it merits and that they should. This is to avoid abuse of power across the spectrum of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. So let's say police is in the kind of state police. Let's say you in Bamenda, for example, you have Bamenda, Mezam division is a state. So if Mezam is a state, let's say Bafut is a city, the state police can arrest somebody in Bafut, but the city county police cannot arrest somebody in police because they have a jurisdiction that bound them, that they must function within that jurisdiction. I hope that makes sense. In other words, let's say Mezam is a state and Bafut is a county, because you have Mezam is a state and you have Mezam, which is a county, and the county will have a city. And so the city within the county have their own police, and the state will have their own police. So the state police can arrest somebody in Bafut, but the city county police cannot arrest somebody in Bafut because it's not within the jurisdiction. They are spellbound by the jurisdictions. So this is the good analysis of a federal structure. And I'll continue to dwell on this federal structure, how we should have a federal Republic of Amazonia that represents the Southern Cameroon territory. I want to take a moment to thank you, all of you that are watching, and wish you a nice day. And this is Fundon Daniel speaking here from the great state of Texas here in the United States. Have a wonderful the rest of your day.